true believers, and welcome to another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. That's right, folks. We're back, and we got a good one for you this time. We are looking at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's right. The third one, brought to you by James Gunn, of course, and the fine folks at Marvel. And it's going to be an interesting one to talk about tonight. I'm going to be very curious everyone's thoughts about it. So I've seen people say, it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. Other people, it's like, it was okay. So I'm going to be very curious where we fit into this one. And we got a great crew to talk all about this. Of course, let's welcome, of course, our movie person, Ashley Pauls.
Thank you for having me back. I love summer movie season, so it's always exciting to kick it off with a Marvel film.
It is, because we actually talked a lot about this one last week on the summer movie preview that we did. And if you haven't listened to it, folks, go back. It's right in the episode before this one, so it's not hard to find, and it's a great one. We talked for quite some time about all the different summer movies, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the big question mark for us, I think, in this one. So it's really, really interesting.
Among lots of other question marks.
God, this whole summer's a big question mark and everything. So it's going to be very curious to see. And we're joined also by Jeff. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Last time you were on, we interviewed you and we had you in the geek seat the last time.
That was fun.
He finally survived. He finally recovered.
The marks have finally healed. I'm very impressed with that.
He's finally back, so he's finally recovered.
He's
back.
Yeah, Jeff Dwoskin, Classic Conversations is the name of the podcast. Pop culture, nostalgia, interviews.
You're also a comedian too.
I am a comedian. That is
He thinks
true.
he's funny.
I think I'm funny. Yeah. So I mean, that's it. Check out the podcast if you can squeeze it in between your Earth Station One viewing. But
it's always good.
Jeff,
it's always
just
good.
out of curiosity, where do you stand on Marvel movies and how the MCU is shaping up these days?
I think feels like homework lately, and I think this last phase.
Okay, that's fair. I just because before we get into Guardians, it's kind of interesting to see where everybody feels, because there's so many things going into this movie, and we'll talk all about it. But I just was kind of curious as to your overview.
Okay. The last Marvel movie I loved was, and I understand, was the Spider-Man one.
I think that was for a lot of people, actually.
Yeah.
I don't think you were alone with that one.
Doctor Strange 2, I thought was garbage, and I even tried to watch it again, and it was garbage. And it was like, but I know that we're not here to talk about that. So, but
not this time.
Not this time.
But that's my mind frame.
Sure. Okay. Gotcha. No, that's great.
That's awesome. Of course, you've heard Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
We definitely would love to hear from everyone at home too. Feedback at earthstation1.com is always the best way to get in touch with us. And of course, the fine folks at YouTube, like and subscribe. We definitely would love to hear from you. Click on that bell at the top. Definitely, if you get a chance, that's the way you find out that we're coming to you now twice a week. Not just once, but twice. And we're coming up on episode 700 next week. So, watch out for that one too, folks, because we got a lot of stuff coming up with you. So definitely check it out. And you know what, Mr. Mike, we've been dancing around it for a while. Let's jump in with both feet and let's listen to a lot of loud music. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Well, we're going to jump in with both feet, and we're in the waters of spoiler territory. So if you have not seen the movie and do not want to be spoiled in any way, just put us on pause, go see the movie, check it out, and then come back and listen to us on the way home, or so that we can get it, because we're going to try to go as deep as we can. Before we get into the actual particulars of the movie itself, let's talk about the box office, because especially with the summer movie season starting, the box office seems to be more relevant than ever. And Guardians was projected to gross around 110 million domestically, and it just surpassed that at about 118 million in the United States and Canada, total of 290 million worldwide. To be honest, that's not a home run. I mean, it sounds good because they made over their projection, but this is only slightly better than Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania did. and we all know how that just died after the initial weekend. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this one. We can get into it a little bit later about the actual things that happen in the movie, but the word of mouth on this is already divided. There's a lot of people who are not happy with it, not because it's not good, but because it's something different than they expected. And so with that said, Jeff, we'll start with you. What were your expectations for this? Did you like the other two Guardians movies, and were you excited for this one?
The first Guardians movie is by far my favorite movie, probably of any of the movies in
Nice.
actually probably in general. Like I just saw James Gunn quoted as saying that he made it so it would be the feeling that you had when you saw Star Wars.
Yes.
And that's and I'm not reacting to the article, but that is how I always described how I felt that movie was. It was like the closest I've ever come since the late 70s to feeling like I felt with Star Wars. Now, the second one I thought was good, and I've rewatched it. I didn't think it was as good as the first one. And I'll just throw in that the holiday special is a must watch too. I think the holiday special is really
very
great.
fun.
And oddly enough, they refer to it a lot
in this. Oh, very much so. And even characters
that's
from
like that's like 2.5 really.
Right. And it was interesting when I was watching Guardians, I realized that while maybe I don't love all the Marvel movies, the style where they bring the characters into the other movies, I found myself watching this one, Volume 3, and like really feeling like I knew the Mantis character, but she was only in 2, right? And like, and that was
and the Christmas special, of course.
Well, right, but no, I'm saying like, but originally, but with all the add-ons, it's like now I felt like she had always been there. Like it felt like all those characters, they just they just like you knew them more than just having seen 1, 2, then 3.
Because they were all in at least 3 other movies. Both Avengers, Endgame, Infinity War, Endgame, and then of course the last Thor movie.
I feel like the MVP is Dave Bautista. I think he is in all the movies so funny, and he's like turning out to be like a really fun actor, like in anything he does. And
I agree.
He plays that character so well in his delivery. I mean, he's in terms of the wrestler, that genre turned actor, he's definitely
one of the best
tier.
I think.
Well, sure.
He might not be the best box office wise, but I mean, Dwayne probably gets all the money, but I think, if you look at his body of work, I think Dave is probably, he's much more impressive.
Yeah.
So that was the expectation going in. Overall, did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. There's a lot going on. I feel like I have to watch it again, but I want to watch it again. Right.
Okay.
So, I enjoyed it. I felt like, oh, this was a nice time spent with these characters that I really do like. And I feel like I've gotten to know through all the movies. And I felt it was a great ending to the story, or the way they end capped it and teased other things. So, but it's one of those movies too, where, with so much special effects where they just start throwing the kitchen sink at you. And sometimes it's hard to kind of really keep track of everything, all the mayhem that's going on. Right. It's 2.5 hours of just, but I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't walk away thinking this was the greatest movie I ever saw, but I didn't walk away unhappy at all. And in these days, just, maybe it's just I'm an old man now, but like, I don't like going to the movies because the risk of it being bad, right? Like if I had hated this movie, I'd have been like, ugh, that was 5 hours. Well, between getting there.
Absolutely.
It's like 5 hours of my day. And it was like, if it's a horrible movie, then I just start feeling like I hate life. And that is not how I felt in this situation.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. So yeah, we'll get into more specifics in a minute, but Ashley, what were your thoughts going into this and overall coming out?
Yeah, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is also one of my favorite MCU movies, if not the favorite. I feel like the rankings always kind of go up and down depending on what I've most seen most recently, but it was truly something special. And just like Jeff said, Volume 2 wasn't quite as good, but I still really enjoyed seeing it as a summer movie. Some great character moments. I'm still not over Yondu sacrificing himself for Peter. I feel like James Gunn always gut punches you emotionally at least once or twice in his movies. So I was really looking forward to this one. Also kind of nervous because there's so much pressure. This is the wrap up of the Guardian story and also James Gunn's swan song before he leaves the MCU for the DC cinematic universe. So a lot riding on this movie. I saw it last night and I feel like I'm still kind of working through my feelings about the film. Like there's a lot that happens. It was more somber in tone, I think, than I was expecting. There's not quite as many laughs. They deal with some heavier subject matter. And I would say a fair warning if you're an animal lover, bring a box of tissues with you. I cried at least 2 times during this movie. There's some stuff that's hard to watch. There's some elements of violence or horror that are maybe a step beyond what we've seen in the MCU previously. But so even though I feel like I still haven't quite decided whether I loved the film or not, I feel like it was still worthwhile for me to see. There's a lot to chew on. And I think what James Gunn always gets right is these characters and the heart and the emotion between them. Rocket is my favorite member of the Guardians, and he was a standout for me in this film. Just great work by Bradley Cooper and showing his vulnerability and his backstory. As hard as it was to watch, it really added layers to these characters. And I'm always a big fan of the theme of found family, and I appreciate that James Gunn gave us a bittersweet ending that I felt right for this trilogy. So yeah, I think, like I said, I'm still working through my feelings, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to have a film that makes you sit with it and chew on it for a little bit. So I don't think it was a safe film. I think James Gunn was willing to take some creative risks, and I'll miss him in the MCU, but after seeing this film, I'm definitely excited to see what he brings to the DC cinematic universe, because I think he has a lot of good stuff for us in store over there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. To your point, I think this is the closest Marvel's come to a R-rated movie. I mean, it really like skirts that line. I mean, it's one F-bomb away from being R, having to be R, right? So, I mean, there's one in there. If you get another one, like you have to be R. So
there's a genocide on top of all that too.
Yeah,
and I was going to say,
God,
and not to mention all the other stuff. So
like a man's face is peeled off. So don't make this your kiddo's first Marvel movie. So just word to the wise. Yeah, show them Captain America or something.
Even more so than Doctor Strange. I mean, Doctor Strange was a horror movie, really, in disguise, and yet this one has a lot more intensity along with that, I think. But Mike, what did you think?
I've been a Guardians fan pretty much since the 70s and with the comic books, and loved the different iterations of it. Loved when they introduced this cast of characters in the comics. And when they decided they were going to be doing a movie, I was thrilled. I was fine with it. And I love the casting. I thought it was brilliant how they created the world around the Guardians of the Galaxy in the movies, that it wasn't set right in the heart of the MCU. It skirted on the outsides of it. It was the cosmic version of the MCU. And I loved what they were doing. And then when they included them with the Infinity War, and then, of course, Endgame, and then a little bit of Thor. And then we had a wonderful Christmas special. And then now we got this. And I thought it was very fitting what we got. If you're an animal lover, you are going to have a really hard time with this movie. Anyone is. Judy was like sitting on the edge of her chair during this whole thing. And she was like crying. She was like sobbing, and, thank God we brought tissues with us, so we were able to help with that. It was very well done. I liked the characters. I liked how we said goodbye to some of them. This is not the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is, you're getting a new team of them. And it's interesting because that's one thing with the Guardians. Even in the comics, they constantly evolved. People came, people left. And you're getting that now with the series. And I like that. I like where it's going with it. Was this my favorite movie? No, not at all. I have problems with this movie, but overall, I liked it. I had fun with it, and I enjoyed it. And we'll get into it in a little bit, what I didn't and everything. But it was a nice send off, and now, not that I was really worried about James Gunn doing Superman. Now I'm looking forward to James Gunn doing Superman.
You kind of got a little preview of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
I loved all the James Gunn stuff.
So it's going to be, I'll be very interested to see. And you know what? Let's bring it on, baby.
My history with Guardians, we talked about on the show many times, but I don't go as far back as Mike with the 70s, but the 2008 team that Abnett Lanning wrote into Marvel Comics, which is pretty much the team that you see in the movie, the first movie, and subsequent movies, that I really fell in love with, that team. And so when they initially announced that this was going to be a movie, James Gunn was going to be making it, I was really excited because I liked James Gunn at the time. I still do. And he was not quite a household name by then, but I knew who he was. I knew his work, and it was solid, and he had a lot of energy. And I also knew the characters. And I do remember quite a lot of people were looking at it like, what is this? A talking raccoon? You got to be crazy. Marvel's going to drop the ball on this one. This is going to be the first Marvel flop, And I had faith. I had faith because I knew the material was solid, and I knew the director was solid. And I do find it amazing that the character that everybody was pointing to and being like, what? A talking raccoon? That's not going to ever work. That's going to be silly. That's too ridiculous. This is Rocket's movie. Like this, everybody else is kind of like a co-star, right? This is Rocket's story. This is like passing the torch. This movie is like passing the torch from Peter's story to Rocket's story. And then Rocket goes on, of course, at the end and is the leader of the team. And Rocket's story is not a pretty one. We kind of get some glimpses of it in the first movie. I don't know if it's if it's mentioned at all in the second movie, really, because that's when it's all about Peter. But this third movie, James decides to go tell his origin story, and it's not pretty. And James doesn't hold back much at all in telling this story. I am an animal lover, as people know. I have a lot of cats and everything. I was, if you want to use the word, I was triggered several times in this movie, especially since when they introduce young Rocket, but even before he has a name, he's palling around with these three other beings, and I know what's going to happen to them. I just know, plot wise, that they're going to die, and yet when it happens, it's so gut wrenching. It's so gut wrenching. It's one of those things. It's like, and the fact that all of this is told, Rocket's story is told. Rocket is a CG character. Yeah, there's humans like doing the voice and stuff like that. And it took like 4 people to do the voice of Rocket at various stages of his life. And he's a CG character working against another actor and other actors. But still, I mean, most of the time in the first and second act, he's horizontal. He's not even like moving. Like he's and yet it still works. Like it's still his movie, and it still works as his movie. There's times where it kind of goes a little off the rails, but that's a James Gunn thing. So if you know James Gunn, you're like prepared for that. But does he overindulge himself? Sure. especially with putting a lot of his friends and family in the movie, right?
It was like I was waiting for the beard guy from Peacemaker to show up. In this.
Yeah, I mean,
he might have been one of the voices.
It might have been. I wouldn't put it past him. But overall, I came out and I thought this was really solid. I think it was a really great way to end because you don't want to repeat yourself. I think the marketing of this was really kind of strange. The way they marketed it was more like, hey, some of your characters that you love, that you've been following, probably are not going to make it through this.
I thought that. I completely thought
I did
that.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. The way they marketed it was like, this is the end of the road for this group, right? And you go in and that's not what the gut punch material is. That's not where the intense stuff comes. That's not where the tissues are needed. Although there's some moments about that too. So, I saw it on Thursday. Nicely attended crowd for the first day. I really appreciated that. And we laughed and we cried. It was a fun experience with a bunch of people that I like and I go to the theater for. So overall, I liked it a lot. Again, like you guys, I'm still processing as far as, is it better than the first one? Is it not? I mean, it says James is doing so much. But Ashley, we want to point it to you this time first. So tell me, since I talked about Rocket's story, and that's the big thing about this movie, tell me what you felt about Rocket being the centerpiece of this and how that worked for you.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, he's my favorite member of the Guardians cast. And I think that each member of this team has their own trauma and things from their past that they've dealt with. And we've always known that Rocket kind of has this chip on his shoulder. It's been hinted at, like you can see his genetic technological modifications, but we don't really know the full story. So as hard as it was to watch those scenes, I think it was important for us as the audience to feel his pain, to be uncomfortable, to really come to empathize this character and why he is the way he is. I mean,
it explains a lot.
Yeah,
really
when you say Nebula said, like, this is worse than what Thanos did to me, like that was one of the most chilling lines because Thanos was a terrible father with a capital T. But if this is beyond what Thanos was doing, like this is awful. And just all the gut punch moments, like when he gets thrown into the cage, it's dirty, it's unsanitary, and the only word he can say is hurts. Like, oh my gosh, like that moment almost got me there too. Like he's this creature that can barely vocalize, but just is in so much pain. It has been so abused. But in the end, I appreciate that this was ultimately a film about triumph. Like we get to see Rocket. He's had these horrible things done to him, but he realizes that he has a family that cares about him. You know, like they may give each other grief. Like, you know, Peter Quill teases him sometimes, but like he says, this is my best friend. I'm going to do anything that I can to save him. And I think Rocket really feels like this is his family. This is where he belongs. He's not a freak. He has a purpose. And then thought it was interesting that he chose not to kill the villain at the end. I was all rooting for him, but just like, eject this guy out the airlock. Like I have zero compassion for
give him
man.
Both barrels.
Yeah, like hats off to the actor for, I can't remember the last time I was like physically angry at a movie villain and ready for him to get his comeuppance. But yeah, Rocket realized like he didn't need to do that. He rose above, like he'd beaten him. And then was also great to see him find like the little raccoons and realize like, oh, there are others like me. I can save these animals. Nobody was there to save me, but I can save them. And then just getting him to see him be captain of the Guardians crew, like such a cool story arc. And going about the galaxy with his best friend Groot. And so, yeah, as a Rocket fan, I'm very pleased with his whole arc throughout the trilogy. And that was definitely the highlight and the strongest part of the movie for me whenever he was on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, what about you? What did you feel about his storyline?
Oh, I'm with Ashley. I mean, I didn't want to interrupt, but I was going to go like second best friend.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. The cool thing about the Rocket is I never I always, if I reflect on it, go, oh, Bradley Cooper is awesome. But at no point when I'm watching the movie do I ever go, that's Bradley Cooper.
Right.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
agree.
And it's such a cool character. The interesting, the one thing about the movie that I guess if it was weird to me was the whole Dr. Island what was
Right.
it?
Right.
Yeah. No, very
Yeah,
much so.
Those vibes. But I think I was prepared for the animal cruelty thing, so I knew it was coming, so it didn't catch me off guard. But I mean, that it was brave, I think, to tell the story as dark as they did. That's what's, I think, so cool about James Gunn, is how true to these characters he is, that he didn't softball it just to make it easier for us to watch it, because it was clear that this raccoon went through some shit, right? And it was like, and you felt every ounce of that in this movie, which did I read it right at the end? He realized, oh, I am a raccoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
that's that was I've been a fan of Rocket since like I said, since the comics, and Rocket Raccoon. And I question the fact that in the movie they just call him Rocket, and he's really adamant that he's not a raccoon. And I was like, wow, they're not making him a raccoon in this. That's kind of weird. But I said, it's all right. It's good. I like the character. I like the way it's depicted. I don't need him to be a raccoon if they don't want him to be. But at the end of this movie, when he says, my name is Rocket Raccoon, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I felt like this surge of adrenaline. Like, yeah, I didn't realize I wanted him to acknowledge that so much.
Yeah.
You did a fist
and it
bump,
turns
I'm
out
sure.
like, it sounds like it's that he's more of an earthling than Peter is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true in a lot of ways. But it was interesting too, because, you saw a true evolution of a character in this movie from an innocent soul. It explained exactly why he became the way he was in the first movie, especially, not trusting anybody, the only one he trusted was Groot. And he was out for himself because everyone he cared for was killed. And it was horrible. And then, realizing, he was ready to die and he was ready to be with his friends again. And, and she told him basically, your story's not done down there. You're not alone down there. And that was just awesome. And I loved it when, oh, we got all the children off, we can leave. No, we've got to save the rest of them. That was just awesome. That was just such a great, great scene.
Even the giant monster ones.
Yeah, even the big giant
monster.
Which is awesome. Or as we call them now, Mantis's posse. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. She's got 3 of them now.
She's got 3 of them, which is pretty awesome.
Linda Cardinelli.
Yeah, you pronounced the name right. That's awesome.
She's awesome. Yeah,
she is awesome, and she played an otter really well, and everything. And it was the voices in this were great and everything. Like Mike said, there were 4 different actors doing Rocket at the different stages in his life. And because Bradley Cooper pretty much has said he's done with the MCU too. So they're going to be doing Rocket. And I think they're going to be fine with, having one of those actors doing Rocket and everything.
Maybe. I mean, Rocket's not young anymore, so but I mean, I'm sure they can replace the voice. It's going to be weird, just like any time they replace anybody.
How hard can it be for Bradley Cooper just to go into a sound booth and go,
come on, throw him a couple million.
Exactly.
He's no Vin Diesel, right? Like,
yeah.
So,
but it was, but it was interesting though. I loved, you just saw how far Rocket has come though, in over the 3 movies, and actually 5 movies, like we said. And, seeing his friends turn to dust and everything.
Yeah.
And, that probably changed him quite a bit. And then in this movie, if you would have gotten Rocket from the first movie in this one at the end, he would have just gone off by himself. He wouldn't have. And so it was pretty awesome. And for him to take over the team. I think it's amazing. But it is, like you said, Mike, it is Rocket's story.
It is Rocket's story, and I think Ashley, I got you beat, because I think the moment that got me was right in the beginning when that hand goes and reaches in the cage.
Oh gosh, oh that's awful.
And you see the close up of young Rocket's face, and I'm like, I know that look. I've seen that look on kittens, on dogs, whatever, and that's not a great look. Yeah, that's that right there. I'm like, okay, this is going to be tough, but it's necessary, I think. As you guys have pointed out, to tell Rocket's story, as Jeff pointed out, don't softball it. I mean, James Gunn is a animal rights activist, and so I know that everybody's like pointing to people with agendas and whatnot or whatever, but I think it's fair. It's always fair to think that for an artist to do what he wants to from his heart. And Rocket's story, it's a lot different than it is in the comics. This is not the comic story at all, as far as his origin or who Lila is or whoever. And all that stuff is different in the comics. But for this story, it works really, really well. And this depiction of Rocket is great. And I think that if you have to pick a villain from from Marvel Comics to fit into this story, I think the High Evolutionary is the perfect one. He's different in the comics, sure.
Completely different.
But to be honest, there's so many different versions of him in the comics that it's not even, I mean, yeah, you could just spin a wheel and try to pick something. There's a lot that they did take from the comics, like the Second Earth and the New Men and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there's overtones of Dr. Moreau in this for sure. But let's talk about the High Evolutionary. Let's talk about, I'm going to try this now. Shakwati Ejwa, right? Is that right? Shakwati Ewuji. Shakwati Ewuji, right? So sure. I am so sorry, because I've seen the actor in other things, Peacemaker and a lot of other things too. I mean, he is a Shakespearean actor of a lot of high regard. And he does not phone it in this. He's not just at Marvel. He's not just at Marvel to get a paycheck. He does some really good work here. Yes, the character is not defined. I think it's not quite Kurt Russell Ego, but it's also, I think, way better than Ronan. That villain was just cardboard. I love the first movie, but man, Ronan is just a cardboard figure. So he gives us some depth about the High Evolutionary. Mike, I know you're more familiar with him with the comics as well. What did you think about the High Evolutionary? Does it work for you?
I think it works perfectly.
Did the actor work for you?
It works perfectly. And showing that he created all these different races, not just, the, mutants or what the next men, as we like to call them, on New Earth. He created, the golden people that we saw in the last movie in number 2 and other races too. And, he basically was using his technology. He wasn't trying to be God. He was just trying to create perfection. And it was interesting. And to him, he didn't see himself as evil. He was just trying to find perfection.
Yeah, they never do.
No, you never do. Nothing is perfect. And there's always a fault. And I love the scene, like when Peter addressed the High Evolutionary for the first time and said, we just saw your people, a squid trying to sell crack to, I think they're roach type head people and everything. And he was like, what? That type of thing. And it's like, well, they're going away anyway. And, that type of thing, because he had already decided that this was a failed experiment on this planet. And how he exterminated everything and he didn't even, blink an eye at it, destroying people or killing and everything, because they weren't perfect and everything. And it was just really interesting. And I thought he fit perfectly into this role. I thought he was a great bad guy for this. You didn't have to get an origin story, because in Marvel, they gave him an origin story that he was human originally. And, he even was tied at one point into how Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver came to be and everything. But
interesting.
that's been thrown out the window years
Yeah,
ago.
I don't know what his current status is, but
No.
but
yeah,
using
I
him here
like
was
what they
great.
did. I really like what they did with him. I think out of the three villains, I think he's up there with Ego. I really do, and everything. And I even felt like he was more of a menace in some ways than Ego was. So,
well, Ashley's already wanted to pick a fight with him. So,
Oh, yeah.
She wants him dead.
Yes, I would say kudos to the actor, like great performance for making me hate the character so deeply. When I say they hate the character, all the praise to the actor because he did such a good job with the performance, really
especially when he shot Lila.
Oh yeah, chilling. Normally I like nuanced villains, but there's no nuance to this guy. He's just he is off the rails. He's a bad person. He's drunk on his own power. He thinks that he can decide what's the best for the universe and to create perfection. And it's so heartbreaking because he is just so obsessed with like perfection and his ideals that he can't see the strengths in people. Like the Guardians are very flawed people, but that's just the nature of us. We're all flawed, but we are still capable of great and heroic things. And just the fact that he could look these living creatures in the eye and just exterminate them. So yeah, I was ready for him to go at the end. No tears were shed at that part. So, but
it's almost almost equally as damning to his character is not only all the things that he's doing with his experiments and subjects and the way he treats his staff and all that kind of stuff, but the scene where Peter confronts him and he's just like puts up a finger like, hold please, like you're not like important, like like I'll get to you in a minute, like he's like Peter's just like over himself. He's just like, oh, you have time for me now finally, like after I attack one of your staff. He just the nuances, like you said. I think that helps. That every little thing, there's nothing about him that's like, oh, I like this guy, I want to hang with him.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
I also appreciated, even though it ended tragically, the courage of his staff members to basically pull a coup at the end to say like, no, this is too far. So of course, like, unfortunately it ends in tragedy, but like finally his staff was willing to stand up and it's like, you're a madman and we can't go along with this even more, even though they should have stood up years ago. I think that's a good warning for us with similar things when you think about like the Nazis and everything they did. Like, it's important for people like stand up, like don't wait that it's so bad that you just have to speak out. Like there were people who could have and should have stopped him previously. So I think that's kind of a good little warning for us too. Like James Gunn has some deeper things to say to us in this movie.
Yeah, it's a weird sort of message too, because on the one hand he's advocating against experimenting on animals, and showing us like in great, almost too much detail. Like he pushes it as far as he can go in a PG-13. But then he ends the movie with the Guardians like slaughtering a bunch of animals.
I did not love that choice. I was like, I heard somebody coming online like, why couldn't it have been like rogue, like robots or some other threat like that? That did kind of feel uncomfortable after everything we had seen. So maybe that was something that the studio tagged on at the end that James Gunn wasn't necessarily as aware.
I don't think so.
No,
I think James is like he's just like, it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple. I think he's had some depth to it, but it was a weird thing. Anything more on the High Evolutionary, Jeff?
No, I mean, I thought it was a good, it's I don't think you need a backstory when you basically lay him out as, can I say a Hitler type? Is that like, I mean, like where they're trying to create an Aryan society? I think that
sure,
someone built in, this guy must be an a-hole type background.
Enough said, right? You get a cheat sheet. Jeff, we'll start with you. The other new character that's introduced here is Adam Warlock. How did you feel about Adam's introduction and use in the movie?
Okay, let me preface by saying I didn't read the comics. Okay, so Guardians of the Galaxy to me was just something I discovered through the movies.
Awesome.
That being said, I have read a lot of people upset with his portrayal. But I think if you have not knowing what it is in the comics, it seems right in line with the world and that gold society. It just to me it fit in perfectly. Like it made a perfect sense that was Adam Warlock from they were making the egg and the other thing, right? They were kind of hatching him, and then how they acted in that this scene, he seemed to be just an extension of exactly what one that would be popped out would have probably acted like. So to me, it seems very much in line with this world, whether or not it's, like, when he makes Superman, I'll be able to really have my own context to know if he screws up Superman. But in this thing, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, this makes sense. I mean, I had no expectations. It seems to match the world that he came from and the whole Guardians movie world. So I really personally didn't have any issue. But again, I caveat that with saying I am not familiar with the character at all.
And that's fair. That's fair. Ashley, probably this is your introduction to him as well, right? So any more thoughts on that?
Well said, Jeff. My thoughts are pretty much in line with yours. And I thought the film especially made the point of saying, like, this guy is a little undercooked. Like, they brought him out before he was like fully done. So it makes sense. Like he's got this incredible raw power, but he's not quite like fully trained and using the power yet. So I thought it was a nice use. Like he's got his quirks too, which fits right in with the rest of the Guardians crew. And I think this is a character, like, this is just an introduction. I'm assuming we're going to see him again and probably get to see a broader range of his powers. And I also liked, this was just a small thing, but I liked that he adopted the animal pet. He took care of that little creature throughout the film. So I thought that was kind of a nice touch along with the other themes in the movie. But yeah, I thought he was interesting, a fun character, and would like to see him again. Was glad we got to see him as part of the Guardians in the post-credit scene.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mike.
All right, let me rip.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I figured if anybody was going to have an issue with Adam Warlock's depiction in this movie, it would be you.
I was seething at this. I hated every second of it. This was my only weak point of the movie, was the portrayal of Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a very beloved character in the MCU and very classic, from the 70s and on. And he was, up there power wise and popularity wise for quite some time. He was, basically his main antagonist was Thanos, and him going up against Thanos. And that's where you got Gamora. That's where you got Drax, was basically from the Adam Warlock storyline. And it was interesting to see when they introduced him. I give this, he's a young character, like you guys said, he wasn't fully baked and everything. They let him out too early or whatever. I have hope that they're going to do right by him, but I just don't think they did in this movie. They made him look like a total doofus, and I couldn't take him seriously at all. And you can't take, and in a movie that was very serious, and a lot of times it almost felt like Adam Warlock was the comic relief at some points, him and Drax at points, Drax hitting that little girl with the ball, and, it was just like, oh God. But
I want to get to our favorite Drax moments in a minute, but go ahead.
But yeah, but I don't think they did it right. I was very happy to see him part of the team at the end. And, because I like how they said everyone deserves a second chance. And I'm glad they did. And, you know, part of me was like, oh, please just let him go down with the ship. You know, I just, you know, I partly wanted to see him gone because that's how much I despise this character in this movie. And, you know, it wasn't the actor's fault by any means. I just don't think they did right by him. And so, you know, I'm willing to give it another chance.
And that's fair, despite the fact that I actually have, and I've had for many, many, many years, the first appearance of the character in Fantastic Four number 66 from 1967.
Him.
When he was just called Him. He didn't have a name. He was just called Him.
Yep. When he came out of the cocoon.
Yep. I actually have those 2 issues. And, but, you know, to be honest, he's not fleshed out at all as a character in those. It's not till much later, as Mike's talking about with Roy Thomas and everybody, that really developed him. I only really know of him really in the Abnett and Lanning run. And yeah, he's a solid guy. I do think the introduction to him was impressive. The power, the actual, like, how are they going to, I mean, he is taking everybody down. Like, how are they going to fight this guy? I thought that was impressive. And then after that, of course, he's just he's just, as you said, Mike, he's kind of a joke. He's a mama's boy. But I do like the scene where, you know, he gets taken in. They give him a second chance because that's what the Guardians do. They're all broken. They're all a-holes. They're all, as they say in one of the movies, they're all a bunch of losers, right? They've all lost something. And through that loss, they come together and they become a team and they become better heroes. And I do think that, yes, if we see Adam Warlock's story after this, he's going to be a much more developed and better character. And yeah, it already looked like he matured like by 10 years in the end post-credit scene. So yeah, other than that, I thought the actor was great. And I again, with the power that he used in the beginning, I really got a Superman vibe off him. So we know that James Gunn can write a Superman powered character and film one. So now, you know, what he does with him after that, when he goes to DC, when he's at DC now, we'll have to wait and find out. Anyway, your favorite Drax moment. I'll start. My favorite Drax moment is when they're in the elevator and she says, you didn't give me one of the beer nuts. And he's like, I'm all out. And then, like, right in front of her face, he gets the bag out and he takes it and he eats one really slowly, like that, like in the last one where he was invisible. He thought he was invisible. He just moved really slow.
So rude.
It is so in her face. She's just like, that was my favorite Drax moment. Jeff, do you have a favorite Drax moment?
No, I have 3, but the couch routine I thought was pretty funny. But
nice, yes.
I thought one of the coolest things was when it was a Ted Lasso moment when he speaks the language of the children, and then they say, why didn't you tell us you could speak the language? And he said, you didn't ask.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the shift of his whole, how they saw that character, I think, his interaction with them. Anyway, so.
No, absolutely.
There was one other, but I know we don't have time.
Ashley?
Well, my moment was actually a little bit more of a more serious one at the end where he's saying goodbye to Mantis and tears up. Like, you've seen the banter and kind of the bickering between these 2 people throughout the films, but like how deeply they care about each other. And he was sad to see basically someone that's become like a deep friend, like a sister to him, going off on her own. So I thought that was a nice little moment of vulnerable emotion that we got to see from Drax. And then, of course, him dancing. Like, I had kind of forgotten about that. Like, he doesn't dance, but I thought that was an appropriate way to end it. Like, that was nice.
If Nebula can dance, Drax can dance.
Yes.
You have a favorite Drax moment, Mike?
Probably, I did like the beer nut part, but I loved his reaction when he was talking to the girls, his tenderness, and you saw another side of him completely.
Yeah. Is it Mantis that says, you're not a destroyer, you're a father? You were meant to be a father? I mean, that was really...
Gamora. I think it was Gamora.
That was Gamora.
Oh, Gamora? Okay.
Not Nebula. That's
Nebula. That's what I meant.
Nebula.
Yeah, Gamora in this movie
The
would not
robot
ever
one.
say that. No.
Yeah, I mean, so many other characters to talk about. It's crazy. We don't have that much time, damn it. But and some of them don't, they can't do every. I mean, I don't think Groot was even needed in the movie. I mean, he's great that he's there, but I mean, he doesn't do anything really except for a couple things here and there. I mean, it's great that he's there, but you can't give a bunch of time to everybody. I mean, someone has to suffer. So
it was interesting though, because throughout all three movies, I am Groot, but then you hear I love, when he says I love you, that's basically you're finally understanding what he's saying.
That's what my theory is too. I'm thinking like he actually
really?
said I am Groot, but we can understand him like Gamora. We can understand him.
Oh yeah. That makes now I see that was my Adam Warlock moment.
Yeah.
But now that I didn't love it that he said that, but now that you explain it that way,
I think it could have been better done.
Movie.
Yeah,
because I'm uncertain. That's my theory, but I think it could have been better presented so that we knew.
I bet you it wouldn't be funny as hell in the closed captioning instead of them saying I love you, it's I am Groot.
Yeah.
See, that would be great.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah. So all right. So we get a preview of what the Guardians are going to look like in the future. We also get nice scenes of Adam Warlock visiting. I'm not Adam Warlock. Sorry, Peter Quill visiting Grandpa Quill, and reading the paper. And then we get a message that says a note that says Star-Lord will return.
Yep.
What do you make of that, Ashley? What do you think is going to be the future of this team or these characters going forward now that James Gunn and some of the actors have said we're done?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that, but I think in some ways it's kind of smart because some of the actors are ready to be done. I respect that. Like, I can't imagine the time of makeup it takes to do like Gamora or Drax, like all that.
It's not surprising that those two actors were like, nope, never. We're done.
Still so much respect to them. Like, I don't blame them for wanting to take a break from that, but there may be other actors and people that are part of this franchise that would like to still be in the MCU. So I think this is nice. Everyone's kind of going their separate ways. They can kind of pick and choose. I don't think we'll necessarily see like a Star-Lord movie, but I could see him like getting like a Disney Plus show or coming into some of the more cosmic type storytelling. Like, they could easily drop him into any of the future storytelling that's going to be taking place in space, things like that. So yeah, I'm encouraged. I realized I felt kind of sad when I was like, oh, this is the last time I'll get to see these characters, but I think that we will still continue to see some of them in the MCU, and that's a nice feeling.
Jeff, do you have any hopes or desires to see in the characters going forward?
If I never see him again, I'm fine. But
wow,
we're done.
I think the impression I got was they'll spot drop them in as needed. But I think like if Disney Plus, like a Guardians Disney Plus show, that would be a great show. That would be like a Mandalorian type adventure type show. I could get behind that. That would be really cool. But
and that'd be expensive.
I know, but still,
because your main character is like all CG. I mean, Grogu is a puppet.
I would take an animated one.
Oh
yeah, same here.
Well, I think there is an animated Guardians of the Galaxy series that I don't know if it's still on, but I think they did have one for a little while. And a High Evolutionary, I think, was in that in some form. Mike, what do you think? Who do you want to see, and what do you think? How do you think we'll see these characters going forward?
Interesting, you would put it that way. Definitely think we'll probably see Star-Lord and possibly even the Guardians. Obviously, again, but I'm thinking that we're going to see Star-Lord maybe in the Avengers movies, like the Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars. That's that's coming out. I could see him being involved with that. The Guardians, I could see having a Disney Plus series or something like that. I think would be really awesome, and I'm excited by the characters they have in it and everything. I was actually even excited to see that Cosmo was part of it.
Cosmo and baby Quasar.
Exactly, which is pretty awesome.
I know. That's a reference.
And Howard the Duck.
You saw
Yeah,
Howard.
there you go.
Well, they've
Playing.
been talking. There was supposed to be a Howard the Duck series by Kevin Smith being created, but that got nixed. I think it was supposed to be on Hulu, and so.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did think I did hear that too.
And but
yeah.
it's interesting to think. I'm done with Gamora. I'm done with Drax. I had to keep on pinching myself that Nubila was Karen Gillan, because it's like, that's Amy Pond. That's Amy
Yeah.
Pond.
She looks bigger. Like
Oh,
Karen's just a really thin twig,
mhm.
but Nebula has like
They probably
serious
had
weight
her.
to her.
They had to have her work out, I'm sure, but some of it's
I
special
think they might have
effects,
added the prosthetics and everything too.
exactly.
I like the way they really showed like her ability to like fix herself or get into situations where like she's damaged but she can still operate. And I mean, they really
showed that
took
before, I think.
Yeah,
in
but
one of the
not
other
to
movies.
this level, I don't think.
Oh
So,
no, not to the level that
Oh
they
yeah,
did in
this
this.
was Terminator level.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. That's good reference, because you're right. That was like liquid metal level.
And I am so glad Peter did not end up with Gamora.
Gamora. I've been
No.
waiting to say that. Yes. That
Yeah.
was the best.
I thought
Yeah,
was
that would have
perfect.
been awkward, and yeah, I'm glad they didn't go that route too. I tell you what, I thought Peter was a goner. I thought for a second, I mean, when his face started bursting up, I thought, oh
Yeah,
man, this is no return, right?
And then
But
dum 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 dum.
yeah, exactly. Then Adam comes and saves the day. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Peter's the one that they said at the end is going to return, or at least Star-Lord is going to return. What that looks like, we don't know. With him being on Earth, Avengers seems like a possibility, although what role he would have, like what does he add to that team?
Right.
I mean,
he's just human now, right?
Yeah, he's
just
just a guy with a Walkman, like what else? I mean, he's great, and he comes to. I like the fact that he's not the smartest guy, but yet his ideas, and especially improvising, he manages to figure out ways to get out of these scenarios.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's like, yeah, I said we were going to get off the ship. We were, and then the other team goes to rescue him, and they're like, "Oh, he's off the ship! Damn it!" Like he found a way. Like it was a stupid way,
right?
But he did it.
He's not jumping off 1,000 foot in the air.
No, it was actually perfect, because the whole time he says, "I'm not walking into a trap. It's going to be a stalemate."
Yeah,
and he was that confident about it that he knew that he wouldn't, that they're not going to get the better of him. He's prepared. That's why he had Groot.
And we thought he was full of it. We thought he was just like, that's just full of bravado.
Come on, guys.
Even when he
don't you know who I am?
Even when he hands Groot
his
guns at one point, I didn't make the connection. I was like, why is he handling his guns? Anyway,
do you think they'll make a Ravengers movie?
No.
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, they had Stallone and everyone. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Anything is possible, but with everything that is going on with behind the scenes at the MCU and Disney, I mean, who knows what is really good. But I do know that Chris Pratt shows that he can lead a movie. So if they did want to make a Star-Lord movie, I think that would be interesting, and I certainly would be there, and I would welcome any of these characters to see them again, because I love them a lot.
Same.
I think this ended really well, about as well as could. So as Jeff pointed out, if we never see them again, to be sad, but I understand that we'll always have these movies. But hopefully we will see them again in some form occasionally. So well, very cool. It looks like we're still waiting to see what a lot of us really thought about it. As far as the soundtrack is awesome, of course. So, I mean, I don't know. Are you guys ready? Are you guys prepared to rate it at all? Or is it still percolating for a lot of you?
I can rate it.
Rate it, Mike.
Okay. Out of 5. Probably 4.5.
Okay.
The only half I pulled down from it, truthfully, is Adam Warlock. For me.
Yeah. Yeah. Ashley?
You know, I don't think I've ever bowed out of one of these before, but just because like the film was a lot and there were some heavy things, I really still am chewing on it. So I don't feel like it would be fair to rate it right now. I'm still working through it. And again, not necessarily a bad thing. I can appreciate a film that makes me think. So I'll chew on that for the next couple days or so. And at the end of the summer, it'll be interesting to see where it ranks in terms of the other things I've seen.
That's another thing. I mean, now that you've seen it, how well do you think it's going to do? I feel reassured that it's not going to be in the number one movie. It's not going to beat. It's not going to beat Super Mario Brothers, and it's not going to probably win the summer.
I think just due to its heavier subject matter, which again is not a bad thing, but it's I think a little bit harder maybe to get general audiences to watch a heavy film that's going to make you feel a lot of things. So yeah, I am very curious now to see where this all ends up. But well, we're seeing for Guardians and MCU fans.
It'll be very interesting actually to see, like we talked about last week, how it's going to play the next 2 weeks before.
Yeah,
because I don't think anything really of note comes out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think Spider-Man's the next big thing.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the month, right?
Yeah.
So we got some time. Jeff, are you going to? Can you rate it at all?
Sure. I was thinking 10 point, but if we're doing 4, I would do 4 or 8, depending on whether you like 1 or 5
We'll do 4.
or 1 out of 8.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that 4, 4.5, 4, 2.5, whatever. You know, I'm not quite willing to give it a 5. But yet, I mean, upon other viewings, although this one's going to be a tough one to watch again. It's like you can put in the first Guardians movie over and over and over again, even the second one. But this one is like, you got to kind of be in the mood. So
I may actually wait till Disney Plus to watch this one again, just so I can kind of be like at home and like snuggling with my kitties while watching it, because it is like it asks more of you as a viewer. So
absolutely.
And plus I don't know that the people in my theater went to see me crying again, so I can do it from the comfort of my home.
I wonder if they'll put a disclaimer in front of it about animal abuse or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I feel like it's
I mean, they didn't yet. They didn't so far. So I don't know if they
but
if that would make a difference.
Because like when certain episodes, like even the Muppet Show, they put a disclaimer.
Oh yeah. I see. When it comes
like
to
on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Oh, and Disney Plus, yeah.
That'll be interesting. They might do that. I could see them doing that. Well, very cool. I think, like I said, I'm giving it a 4, 4.5 or whatever. So, but it was really fun to talk to you guys about it. And I know that there's a lot to unpack here, so we'll still probably be talking about it for maybe months and years to come. So maybe we'll revisit it at some point. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about something a little less controversial, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees.
And now we're joined by Michelle, and of course it's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame season, and we have the announcements here. Ready to take it away, Michelle?
I am.
So how do you think we did with our picks and everything?
As far as our picks a few months ago, I can't remember who we picked, but
someday we'll write it down or something like that. You know,
if only there was somebody keeping a record of these sort of things. If only we could go back and replay a tape or something.
If you guys had quit firing your secretaries.
Oh, I know. Our secretaries come and go. They're like, drummers for Spinal Tap or something.
Tap. They blow up.
Exactly. Again.
Anyway, as far as to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame picked, they did pretty good. They did a pretty good job. Not perfect, but pretty good. In alphabetical order, we have Kate Bush.
Cool. Were you surprised by that one?
I was.
I wasn't surprised. I didn't think she was 100% lock, but I thought she had a pretty good chance. And I thought maybe if she didn't get the votes, they'd go ahead and put her in musical excellence.
Yeah.
The Shaka Khan route.
But I'm very glad that the hall recognized her as part of the ballot. and it's richly deserved. Next, Sheryl Crow. Moving on.
Enough said about Sheryl Crow, I guess.
Yeah. And after Sheryl, we have Missy Elliott, the first female hip hop artist to be nominated, let alone inducted. She is a towering figure in hip hop. This is richly deserved, and I think she will be.
This was her. No, this was her first year of eligibility,
Yeah.
right?
It was her first.
No. I think her first record came out in the early '90s. So it was.
But this was her first year on the ballot.
First year nominated, not
Yeah.
first year eligible.
Right.
And I think with her ballot, she will continue to support more deserving women. So I'm very happy to see her there. After Missy, we have George Michael. Very happy to see his talent.
And that was his
recognized.
first time also on the ballot.
Yes.
Mhm.
And after George Michael, the artist that I understand got the most votes in Rock Hall history, and people are going to kind of go, huh, with this, but that is Willie Nelson.
I think
Yeah,
partly
not
also-
fan vote. No, she's not talking about fan vote. She's talking about
not-
votes.
no, not
Yeah,
fan
this is votes by the voting
Committee.
body, the
Yeah.
1,000, 1,100-ish voting body.
Who doesn't like Willie?
Yeah, really. Who doesn't like Willie? He will probably be the headliner for the night. Everybody will be singing on the road again for the All-Star Jam.
I hope they do an all-star jam.
If
Mhm.
they do one, they did last year, so I hope they stay with that trend. After Willie Nelson, finally, the long national nightmare is over. Rage Against the Machine. I was a little surprised by that. I really, not based on anything hard data-wise, I just kind of had this feeling that people really love Chris Cornell, and it was Soundgarden's time, but nope, it's Rage Against the Machine. And the last one was a huge surprise. People loved him. Not too many people gave him a snowball's chance.
Mm-mm.
And it's usually about you'll see in social media maybe 15, 20 Rock Hall voters sharing their ballots, and a lot of them really had love for the Spinners, and they said I might be throwing away a vote, but I love the Spinners. But that carried over. That tiny sample carried over. And
Rubber
so
Band Man
richly
is
deserved.
one of my favorite songs ever.
How can you not like that song?
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm happy about that one. I am actually happy about it. I'm sad
Yeah.
not to see Cyndi Lauper get in. And I was also sad not to see Warren Zevon
and
not get
Zevon.
in.
Those
Second and third place votes of the
Yeah.
fan votes, were completely ignored. Well, we don't know. if completely
only
ignored, but
only one act from the fan vote got in, and that was George Michael.
yeah, was the only inductee this year, at least as far as the main inductees, that is no longer with us.
Mhm.
Well,
of course, there's
partly,
one of
you
the
know-
Spinners left, right?
Yes.
There's one remaining
I'm-
spinner.
I'm also glad they're doing Willie Nelson before Willie
Yeah.
Nelson just celebrated his 90th birthday
90th
last
birthday.
week.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a great thing that he's in.
Mhm.
But, I'm hoping, they just didn't do it. Oh, let's just give it to Willie because he's still with us type thing.
Mhm.
I think it's deserved.
Oh, definitely. And moving on to the various categories, musical excellence, Shaka Khan. They did not take her right from the ballot into musical excellence. They waited 2 years, which I think is a good move. If they put you in this right off the ballot, like they did with Judas Priest, it really smacks of consolation prize.
Very much so.
So
As it was, I mean, she was on the ballot between her solo and her with Rufus, I think like 8 times or something like that.
this was her 7th time.
7 times.
Wow.
7th time.
8 times the charm.
And they needed to get her in because she was kind of this glaring, obvious omission, and they did put Mary J. Blige on a couple of years ago, but they kind of needed Shaka in place to credibly move on to Mariah Carey. I'm blanking out on the other R&B divas that are
Waiting in the
Lauryn
Wings.
Hill, Waiting in the Wings, so they can
Eventually
move on
Beyonce
with
too
that
and
now.
such too.
Yeah. And after Shaka Khan, a name that a lot of people may not recognize. If you listen to classic rock, you've heard him play. His name is Al Cooper, with a K. If you can hear in your mind Like a Rolling Stone, by Bob Dylan, he played the organ. He played French horn and keyboards on the Rolling Stones' You Can't Always Get You Want. That is just two of hundreds of records he's played on. He's played with The Who, he's played with Jimi Hendrix, he's played with Cream and Alice Cooper, and he founded Blood, Sweat and Tears, did one album with them before they became big. He's one of those names you may not know unless you read liner notes, but he's huge. This is what musical excellence was designed for, and it's a very, very good choice.
The next one, I was totally shocked he wasn't in already.
Everybody is. And people have been saying his name for years. Bernie Taupin is finally in. And
I was like, what? He didn't go in with Elton, type thing. You almost expected that with, and because The Rock has been around almost for 30 years now, and I'm shocked Bernie hasn't gotten it.
Well, they fixed it.
Yeah.
They fixed it. So I'm sure Elton will be on hand to induct him, and it will be great. Very happy about that. So we're going to forgive him for co-writing We Built This City. He has co-written with artists other than Elton John. He co-wrote These Dreams by heart. A lot of people don't know that. So he has a varied career. He's done some performing himself, and very happy to see him in there. And the last one is a little bit controversial. In terms of his career and what he did for R&B soul music, it's there's no argument there. Unfortunately, this is one of those where there some things in their personal life kind of mar it a little bit. That is Don Cornelius, the
Soul Train,
the host of Soul Train.
He created Soul Train, and it's interesting because for me growing up, every Saturday at noon on Channel 5, they had Soul Train to go up against American Bandstand, because American Bandstand was on ABC, and Channel 5 had Soul Train.
Yeah, and Soul Train.
Oh wait, hold on. The Soul Train.
Soul Train, I think, did for R&B what American Bandstand did for pop. Not only did it showcase culture, it helped make culture. So on a professional level, Don Cornelius isn't just an excellent choice. He was convicted of domestic abuse charges. So you have a domestic abuser going into a category that is named for a known abuser in Ahmet Ertegun.
So it's appropriate.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, the optics are not superb.
It is very difficult to find people in the Rock Hall that don't have something in their past. I mean, a lot of them are very problematic. So I mean, it comes. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah, I've never been one of those who said, "Oh, we need an all-woman class." I've never come out in favor of that, but I think for the next 2-3 years, I would like to see nothing but women in the Ahmet Ertegun category. To be honest,
gotcha.
That'd be awesome.
There were so many people. The ballot was only 14 names, so I thought it would be a little smaller, and they went with the 7 nominees. There's only one fewer name than last year. That we've got 13 people, 13 acts going in, so that's tremendous. I'm glad they're going for the big classes. I guess they didn't have room to put somebody else into Ahmet Ertegun. Don't want to steal the thunder, but there are some deserving women in this category. And we've got 3 out of 7 of the performers are women, but there's only one woman in the category inductions. So again, we have a lot more men going in. So not wanting to reduce music to identity politics all the time, but representation's important, and until the hall kind of addresses it at least a little better than they have been, you got to keep talking about it.
Of course.
And I almost forgot. They have renamed the early influence category to musical influence, which I think is a better name for what they're doing with this category now. And the first name is DJ Kool Herc, who is considered by many people to be the father of hip hop. He is the inventor of scratching.
Almost 50 years of it.
Yep, 50 years. We're celebrating 50 years of hip hop. So he is a great choice. And the other name was just a complete wonderful surprise. He had a single in the singles category back in 2018 when they started the singles category, which thankfully seems to have gone by the wayside. People had given up on him. He's from the 60s. His name is Link Ray. And his song Rumble was one of the first rock and roll songs to be banned. Despite being an instrumental, it was not banned for lyrics. People were that scared of his guitar.
So awesome.
He's on the Pulp Fiction soundtrack if you ever want to hear him.
Yeah, he has a strong influence on how people still play rock and roll guitar today.
Oh, very much so. And he's not the Dick Dale that you hear on he's a different one.
Yeah, we need to get him in next.
Yeah.
But possibly the only indigenous inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that was an injustice, a snub addressed, and very good to see that. And I've kind of tweeted in the past with his daughter, and she is ecstatic. She's one of the first people I thought of, and she is definitely ecstatic. So very happy for the family as well. So all in all, this is a tremendous class, and I think the ceremony is going to be pretty tremendous too.
No one will be sober with Willie Nelson there. It'll be good. So
you can see if you can see the stage through the haze.
Yeah, they don't need to bring out the smoke machine.
So this one is in Brooklyn, but they're going to go back to Cleveland next year, I think. Correct?
They have said that they are committed to doing Cleveland every other year, and then the alternate years they want to travel more. They haven't named all the cities. They are doing some construction at the hall in Cleveland. I don't know what stage it's in right now. So we'll have to see where they are next year, and if the actual museum will be ready to handle the guests that would come.
So when is the induction ceremony?
It is November 3rd, and we don't know who's doing the broadcast. Apparently, the hall's media partnerships with SiriusXM and HBO have come to an end.
Oh, wow.
So the broadcast partner, my guess it'll be Apple, because the induction announcement was on Apple Music. We are waiting to hear.
Interesting.
Gotcha. And it's going to be at the Barclays Center again.
At the Barclays Center, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Well, thank you as always, Michelle, and looking forward to seeing the ceremony and then who they're going to bring in try to do for next year.
Yep.
And any favorites or predictions? Because I know you're all into that. And I know you guys always look. So for next year, who's going to go in?
You're already talking about next year. Haven't even inducted them in.
Yeah. We always do this.
I mean, there's still speculation. Right now, the big speculation is who's going to show up, who's not going to show. Is Kate going to show up? I mean, that's a big question.
Traveling. She hates traveling.
There was one of the Rock Hall voters. She has been in radio for many, many years. She was instrumental in getting Rush inducted. She says it is a myth that Kate Bush is afraid to fly.
Really?
So Kate might come. Might.
That would be amazing.
That would be, yeah, that would be a tremendous feather in the Hall's cap.
And
yes, it would.
And then who's gonna be the folks that they get to induct these folks?
Yeah, those announcements are still coming, so it's always fun to try to guess who's gonna do the honors. A lot of people are hoping that Big Boy from Outkast will induct Kate. I think it'd be a wonderful choice, but next year
just don't get the kids from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I know and you know, I don't want to dismiss the fact that that was a big bump for her.
Oh, I'm sure it
But
was.
there's a lot of people that are saying that that's why she's getting in this year, and I hope that's not the only reason.
Oh no, I
No.
don't think so. I would hope not.
I mean,
I
if
think it was
anything,
just the catalyst for the voters to finally go, oh yeah.
yeah.
That's like saying the Go-Go's only got in because the documentary they made for them, you know.
Well, they pretty much made that documentary because they were like, this is our testimonial as to
Yeah.
why we should be in.
Yeah. And the director of that documentary is directing Let the Canary Sing, which is Cyndi Lauper's documentary. So
Look out.
next year, I am imagining that Warren Zevon and Cyndi will be back on the ballot. They flat out should have gotten in this year.
Mhm.
Other
What
than
happened
that,
with
we'll
Dave
see.
Matthews?
I don't know. It's
Like he
very
won the fan
strange.
vote one year, and then
And
that was like 3 years ago.
gone.
He's not even on the ballot for the last couple of years. Nobody even talks about him. What happened? Why is that the case?
I have no idea.
He must have pissed somebody off.
I don't.
I mean, and that's pretty bad considering, like, you know, a lot of people who are like, I'm not showing up, and I mean, like Todd Rundgren, like, I'm gonna play in the same state the night before, but I'm not gonna show up for your damn ceremony. Like, I mean, that was kind of crude.
Yes, it was.
Crude and rude, but
It's typical
so
for him though.
oh, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, again, nature of the beast, right? I mean, you got
Yep.
all these personalities. So, yeah. So that's the big question: who's going to induct who's going to show up, what are they going to play, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the fun of it too, I think. Because man, if we could see Kate perform again, that would be worth the whole thing. I mean, that would be worth watching the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think she'll come. I don't think she'll perform.
Very interesting to see.
But even just seeing her in person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think everybody on the performers list, George Michael, of course, accepted, will be there.
I think
So
so.
as far as next
Yeah.
year's ballot, because we are starting to, I guess we'll end with that. But you already said you think Warren and Cyndi will be back.
Mhm.
Is there anybody who's eligible next year that you think has a potential to go right in?
They tweaked their easy for me to say, eligibility.
Mhm.
That's why the white stripes showed up this year instead of next year.
A lot of people are surprised that they didn't get in.
I'm not surprised.
There's plenty of time for them.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Sure.
I think
would
they'll
like to
show
see-
up again.
Yeah.
I apologize. Honestly, I'm not sure who,
That's okay. We have
if
time.
there is a big name that's newly eligible.
That'd be interesting. So, because yeah, it should be interesting. It is interesting to see who gets in right away and who has to wait a few years. I mean,
Weird
sometimes the
Al
people
Yankovic, Weird Al Yankovic,
the people that have to
Weird-
wait, even that they're on the ballot and they have to go over and over and over again, it's just like, it's crazy. Like, you know, I mean, we talked several times about artists that didn't get in when they were right away, you know.
Well,
Like
let's do
David
the
Bowie,
monkeys.
right?
while
David
we still
Bowie,
have
Queen,
one.
and Radiohead.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
So the Rock Hall's crazy. I know
Yeah.
that there's a lot of like blowback on a lot of these choices, and there's all sorts of opinions, but it is fun to talk about. So, I mean, regardless of what side of what is rock and roll and what isn't, and what the Rock Hall's doing and what they're not doing, or what they should be doing and who they should be letting in or whatever. I mean, these are interesting conversations to have, and we like talking about it because we like talking about music. And
We
a
do.
lot, and if all these people who, like, I know people who, I was surprised, I know people who are my age that had no idea who Kate Bush was. And I mean, if this means that Kate Bush gets out to more people, then that, I say, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed.
Absolutely. That's what I think a big part of what a Hall of Fame is for, not just to rubber stamp who's famous, but
No,
Yeah.
I can name dozens of artists who I think should be in there who are now eligible, but haven't even been nominated yet.
Right.
And I'm not joking when I say, you know, certain bands, and I'm not talking about Weird Al or the Monkees or stuff. That's fun stuff. But there's artists out there that should be in there that, you know, Warren Zevon included in that list because
Yeah.
last year was his first year, you know, that, you
He's
know,
gonna get in. I mean, if he's not,
think
if
so.
he,
I
I
think
think,
so.
yeah, I think if he doesn't get in, I mean, he didn't get in this year, and obviously, if the fans or whatever, that the committee doesn't vote him or the body doesn't vote him, I think, musical excellence. I mean, he's a candidate for that for sure. But he's so influential among musicians. He's a musician's musician, and when you know. So, like, I think, yeah, I have no, Cindy, I'm not 100%. I think she should be in, but I'm not 100% sure that she could get in. Like, she'll get in anytime soon. So
somebody actually brought up recently about Harry Chapin not being in the Hall of Fame. If Jim Croce's in, why not Harry Chapin?
Jim Croce is not in.
He's not. That's right. I forgot. That's another one.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Roberta Flack.
Exactly. So there's tons.
Yeah, I thought that I know that the guy who used to run the Rock Hall, Jan Winter, is that right?
Yeah.
Who was editor of Rolling Stone, right, for a long time. Well, I know that he while he was over the Rock Hall, there were certain acts that he didn't want to get in, like the Monkees, and he kept that from happening. Carly Simon was another one, and Warren Zevon is another one. So we'll see if he really
ain't there no more. So
right, he's not there anymore. He probably still has a little bit of pull, but not enough, hopefully.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, if Carly Simon went in, then
a lot of acts that he didn't like have gone in. Rush, Kiss, Chicago, Carly Simon.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good. Good stuff.
As we like to say, watch this spot. We'll be talking about it here. Stick with us. Thank you, Michelle, as always.
Absolutely.
Let's take a quick break, and we will be back in a moment to close up the show. All right, YouTube folks, this is our bonus section, and one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and it's continuing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's talk about the music. How did you guys think about the music in this? Did you guys think it worked? Did you guys think it was a little too much? Because there were parts of it I felt like some of the music was forced in it, compared to some of the others. The others, it worked really naturally, because even like when they introduced the Guardians in Infinity War, they had the music playing and everything like that, like as the spaceship was coming into scene and everything. For this, it just felt like anytime a new character popped up, a lot of loud music and stuff like that. So what do you think? I thought the acoustic version of Creep was amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the
opening
music highlights for me. This was probably my least favorite of the three soundtracks, just because it wasn't as much to my just my personal musical I love 70s music, so like the first two soundtracks were like A+ for me. So
this one's a little bit more recent.
Yeah, so I was like, oh darn, some more modern music is squeaking in here. But again, that's more of just like a personal preference. And I'm hearing Come and Get Your Love put a smile on my face at the end. It was nice to hear that again.
That's awesome. What about you guys?
The first Guardian soundtrack I had on replay like over and over again. It was like it's my favorite when Google had a music system, like an app. They actually gave it away for free.
Yes, I remember that.
And I would listen to it nonstop. Now, maybe I was more aware of it in this movie. So if what I'm about to say, you're like, that is how the first movie was. The first movie, it felt more tonal. Like the music matched the feeling of the movie. This one, I felt like the lyrics were purposely matching whatever was going on in the thing. And sometimes that can be a little, I didn't mind it. I enjoyed the music. I loved it all. But then sometimes it's like, oh, we need another song. It's like, if you listen to the words, it was kind of describing exactly what was happening. And anyway, that's not a negative or a positive. I seem to be well aware of it. And so, I didn't feel that way for I don't think that's how it was for the first couple of times, but maybe it was. And I just didn't notice, but I like it. I think the great music. It's great music.
It's great music. I mean, I look at the soundtrack, all the tracks, and I like all the music. But the way they were implemented, the only three moments in the movie really resonated with me as far as music. The opening with Creep and Rocket walking around, and that whole sequence I just really took in, and that really set the tone, I think, for the whole movie. Like, this is his movie, and it's not going to be like a lot of laughs all the time anyway. And then the ending, Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine, I thought was the perfect song to get everybody like dancing and celebrating. And I really thought that was a really great use of that song. And then, of course, at the end, you know, when Rocket goes, I've always been partial to this one, and we hear Come and Get Your Love from the first movie. It just seems like, yeah, the Guardians may be different crew, but they're going to live on forever. And those were the three moments, musical moments, that I took with me. The rest of them, I think they just were there, but those were the three that resonated with me.
Cool. It's interesting. I liked the music, but it was just like there were certain parts where it just felt like, let's see how many music songs we could throw into this movie, and over and over and over. And there were some scenes where it just didn't feel like it needed it. And overall, though, I thought it was a fun story. I thought it was great overall, and it made you think a lot, which was, you know, and feel for Rocket a ton. And
I did like the idea. I mean, I think they've done this before, but I did like the idea. It's really enforced in this, that whenever they go into battle, whenever they do something, they pump themselves up with music. And they are all in the same wavelength. They're all listening to the same music, which is kind of cool. That means that they're all together as a unit. They're sharing that together. And I thought that was pretty cool, especially when it's, I think, another song or the other moment that I can kind of remember as much. But you've got that, like, the scene where they're like all together and they're on the same page, and they're going to go after the bad guys, and they're all in a row, like they're that you know, that slow motion shot of all of them walking. And what's playing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's No Sleep Till Brooklyn, right? So you can't go, if you're going into battle, Beastie Boys, man. That's that'll get you where you need to be, right?
They also did that in the Shazam movie recently with the Beasties also.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
And so it was interesting. Well, no, I agree completely. When they're all on the same page and the music, they're all listening to the same thing, or they're all going to it. What brings to mind was in the Avengers Infinity War, when they first introduced the Guardians in it, and the ship comes out of warp or whatever, and you hear the Spinners' Rubber Band Man playing.
Yeah, I love that moment.
And they're all singing it along with it and everything on the ship, except for Drax, who's invisible. You couldn't see him. So
he's tricky, that one.
I know. But it was interesting. And I know James Gunn has a huge love for music and such. And when he goes to DC, I'll be very curious to see what he does with that. Because you could see his influence with the music, both in Suicide Squad and also in Peacemaker. So I'll be very curious to see what they do with it and everything.
I did also find it interesting that, you know, say what you will about Adam Warlock and his depiction here. I mean, he has great musical taste. He's a fan of Adam Ballou, and especially his work with King Crimson. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Oh, that's very true.
You have to respect that.
I do respect that. That was the first time I respected him in the movie. What do you mean?
I do want to throw out my other favorite Drax moment. It's when he goes, these very authentic outfits that match some people's skin tones better than others.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That whole running joke, that was so funny. Oh my God.
The whole lead up into the breaking into that place was pretty funny, especially with Peter not knowing that he was broadcasting to everybody. And that played out. I will say that once they got in there, that whole sequence with Nathan Fillion and all that kind of stuff, and all of James Gunn's other friends and family, I did think that was the only time that it kind of weighed down. Like, I thought, this isn't really working for me as much as I would hope.
Those scenes were almost like, oh, I recognize that person. I recognize that person.
It took me out of the movie, and I thought that the outfits that Nathan and them were wearing were just dumb. Like, I just didn't think they looked aesthetically pleasing. And it just, it didn't really work for me. That was the only time in the movie that I was just kind of like, this, can we just move past this? And we did, and it was fine after that. I mean, we just saw, like, we got more rocket flashbacks, and I was right in the, shit, there's some serious stuff going on here.
So that was cool. That was very cool. The music, and it was a good film and everything. I liked it better than anything else I've seen, probably from Marvel in probably the last year and a half. So, and I'll stand on that mountain. So,
I think it's the best one since. It's not a long time, but it's the best one since No Way Home. I mean, No Way Home is a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like Wakanda Forever. I really did, and I liked it when I first saw it, but it didn't age well for me, and so I don't know. But
because they don't make movies anymore, they make movies that are setting up 15 other movies.
Exactly.
This movie didn't.
It's like a comic book.
Yeah, this movie didn't set up anything. I mean, it may have like teased its potential future things, but But if those things never happen, whatever.
But it wrapped up a lot of things so that they laid the groundworks in the other movies too. So
right. But it was their story, right?
Very much.
It didn't just drop in Ironheart because we need Ironheart.
Yeah, we didn't see an end scene where it's like, oh, this is going to lead to Marvels, which is the next movie coming out in a few months.
Yeah.
Or they didn't show a scene from Marvels as one of the bonus at the end or something.
That's what I was. They showed a preview for it at the beginning, but so that was enough. Man, they showed a lot of ads. Oh, goodness gracious.
If at least 15 minutes worth of stuff.
More for me. I mean, the start time of the movie was 3:15. That's when the trailer started. And then by the time I go to AMC, so by the time Nicole Kidman was looking at the screen saying, "Heartbreak feels good in a place like this," I was like, I looked at my watch and I was like, it's 3:45. I'm like, you showed like 30 minutes of ads.
That's insane.
And now I got it. Like, now the movie starts and it's 2.5 hours. Yeah, that's not fun, AMC. I know you got to make money and get people excited about seeing other movies, but come on, a lot of these people are seeing these things on YouTube and all that. Just don't waste our time.
Yeah.
Right. It used to be that, like, if you didn't see a preview at the movies, you just never saw it.
Right.
And now you just go to YouTube and you can see anything you want.
Absolutely. Actually, you see longer ones. They actually tell you in the trailer, like, to see more, go to this site. Like,
it's like, no.
We went, it was a guy's night out, and it's about 10 minutes into the previews, and all of a sudden it's like, put on your 3D glasses. And we're like, what? This is in 3D? None of us have glasses. So we have to go find glasses.
Oh, no.
We have to go run and find glasses. It took me like 10 minutes to kind of get used to that.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. So
especially if you're not prepared for it.
Oh, man.
Wow. Well, folks at home, definitely, we want to hear from you guys. Feedback at ourstation1.com. Let us know what you guys thought about the movie. Did you like it? Did you not? Did it work for you? Definitely let us know what you guys thought. All right. With that being said, let's close up the show. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Your Station One podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening and joining for us and hearing us, gush about this movie. It was a ton of fun. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, as you found out last week when we did our summer movie reviews. We got a lot to go, folks. We totally got a lot to go.
Just beginning.
Oh, God, yes. So definitely, folks, if you get a chance, definitely rate, like us, do whatever you want to do with us. We do appreciate you guys, and thank you for joining us as always. Let's thank our crew, because we appreciate them also. Jeff, thank you as always, my friend. It was great having you on to panel.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been too long.
I know. It's like, I couldn't believe it when you told me how long it's been. So yeah, you guys are fun to hang out with.
Oh,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks. You want to promote your show?
Classic Conversations. Pretty much anywhere you probably listen to this podcast, you can find Classic Conversations, and just cool interviews with TV, film folks and comedians, and it's good stuff.
Awesome. And we will actually have a link to that up in our show notes, which is awesome. Definitely check it out. It's a fun show. I subscribe and listen every week, so it's good.
Do you? Thank you.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I like you. I actually do like you. Ashley, thank you so much, Sean.
Oh, thank you. It's always a blast talking with you guys, especially about Marvel movies. So
I
thanks.
know it was a chore tonight. I know it was
Thanks
a chore.
for letting me join. So even though I'm battling a sore throat and a nasty cold, it's like, gosh darn it, I'm going to talk about Guardians anyway. So
you
we'll
got
give
3
you
weeks
next
to
week
get
off.
healthy.
Yep.
yes, before the next one. So
So get healthy, young lady. Anything you want to promote or shout out about?
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out. It kind of went along with some of the themes of this movie, but this weekend I was able to adopt a rescue cat from a local organization called Cattail. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them and organizations like them with volunteers and people that are helping rescue these animals and get them new homes. The cat that we adopted, she had been rescued, was potentially going to get euthanized at a shelter, but she was rescued by this organization, and she's just the sweetest little cat. She's been sitting on my lap for pretty much all the podcasts. So yeah, definitely I'll give a little peek for our YouTube viewers. This is Rosie. So she is the sweetest little thing. So
we're
yeah,
officially a cat video now, folks.
Yes. So tag that in there. But
I will.
so yeah, so that's a great way to give back if you can do it financially or adopting rescued animals. There's some really loving pets out there that need good homes, and shout out, thank you to the organizations that help match them with people that would like to bring home a pet.
Awesome. And Mr. Mike, we made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Chris Hamer and his partner Heather for inviting myself and Peter Cutler to the grand opening of URBNPOP Comic Company in Ackworth, Georgia for Free Comic Day on Saturday. They had a bunch of people there. It was crazy. It was always it's a small store, but it's really cool. And if you know Chris, it's got his personality all over it.
Oh, God.
It's very much got a artistic vibe to it. Very
It's
cool.
also a gallery, isn't it?
It's also, it's a lot of his artwork as well as other artists that he knows. Their artwork is hanging there. He's going to have exhibits there. Right now, he's got an exhibit on Godzilla work. Like people have done various pictures of Godzilla, and he's got them on the wall for sale. So it's a legit gallery like that. Ackworth is far for me, a far drive for me. So it was, but it was well worth it. Hanging out with Chris, hanging out with Heather, getting to see the shop, getting to see some friends that came to the shop. Thanks, Kirby, for stopping by. It was good to see you, as well as other creators. Eric and Lee from About Time Comics was there. Also, I got to meet a guy who was actually in the Guardians movie. He actually did some featured background work. He played like 8 characters. And his name is Michael Koski, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. And he was really fun. He had some fun stories about the set as well as other work he's done in the Atlanta area. So that was kind of a nice thing to maybe we'll see if we can get him on the show at some point, because like I said, he had some great stories to tell. And yeah, it was a good vibe all around. And that's what Free Comic Day is about. It's about supporting your local comic shops. Most of them are just mom and pop places. And doing what they can to survive and so when you go get free comics, you should buy something as well. So I appreciate everybody who did come by and buy something.
Very much so. Free Comic Book Day is always a great way to help support your. No, it's not. It is not. You get free stuff, but it's all about supporting your comic shop.
Am I supposed to buy something at 7-Eleven on Free Slushy Day too? Have I been doing it wrong? No, I've been doing it wrong.
They can handle that. That's no big deal. So it's awesome. My shout out real quick. Judy and I have been watching more TV, and we are very excited about the return of one of our favorites. We were watching Sweet Tooth, and it has returned for season 2, and it is picked up right from season 1, and it is just an amazing show. And, and I'm not a big dystopian fan, but there's something about the show that is just awesome. It's not the same universe as Last of Us or Walking Dead or shows like that. It's in some ways worse, and because the bad guys are human in this, and
it has the same ties that the Guardians movie does. Actually,
a
lot of the same themes,
Oh,
a lot
very
of
much
this,
so.
a lot of the same themes, actually.
Yeah,
I hear really good things about that show.
It is good.
it is really, really good. And on Netflix, folks, please check it out. I think we'll be doing an episode probably once this, things settle down, and sometime later in the summer, we'll be taking a look at Sweet Tooth. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And if you get a chance, ties also into comics, because Jeff Lemire did an amazing, amazing series. And that was for DC. So definitely check it out. It's a great, and it's definitely not a superhero, and it's not for kids at all. So definitely recommend it, folks. And as always, thank you for listening to the Earth Station One podcast. Always remember, we couldn't do this without you. If you want to support the podcast, please check out our Tee-Public store and get some really cool ESO Network swag. Also, remember, if you want to listen to the show before the rest of the world, why not join the ESO Network Patreon? For as little as $1 a month, you could help support us here at Earth Station One. Check out the ESO Network on Patreon. Real simple, folks. Patreon.com/ESO Network. We want to hear from you guys, as always. Please write us anytime at feedback@earthstation1.com. Remember, you could also find Earth Station One wherever fine podcasts are found. And now Earth Station One can also be found in video format. That's why you get to see these lovely faces. And you also get to watch us and everything on YouTube. Like and subscribe, as we say. Like and subscribe. And also ring the bell. So, it's the best way to do it. As always, as we like to say, on behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, Michael Gordon, Ashley Pauls, and Jeff Dwoskin, thank you so, so much. And you know what? Thanks, folks, for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed going to the movies. There's a lot more to come, and we will see you very, very soon. Episode 700 is on its way, folks. Peace, and we are done. Ciao, folks.
Man.